Lieutenant Colonel Vindman is currently trending on Twitter. He's in the news because he's about to lose his job at the White House and be reassigned to the Department of Defense. And boy, is everybody freaking out. I've seen people on the right saying he's a traitor and a spy and he should be charged and fired or whatever. People on the left are saying he's a hero. He stood up for what's right. Now that's that quote they love, saying, I'm going to do what's right, or in America, right matters, whatever that phrase was. People on the left are saying he should be immediately brought on by Democrats and he should run for office and win because that's the kind of person they need. Let's just stop, everybody. All right. Vindman should be removed from his position, period. It's not retaliation. It's not because Trump is out for revenge. It's because Vindman, by his own words and explanation in his testimony, is insubordinate. If he's unhappy in his position and doesn't want to do what the president wants or is upset the president won't listen, it's fair for everyone to say he should go somewhere else. He serves at the pleasure of the president. The president is unhappy with him. And if he was disgruntled and going around complaining, well, then wouldn't he be happier going somewhere else? It's not about Vindman being a traitor. I'm sure he did what he thought was right. But I view him more as a narcissist who thinks his opinion is more important than the duly elected president. Now, I certainly don't trust Trump's opinion on these matters for the most part. That's fine. He's the president. If the people vote for a man who's stupid, that stupid man gets to make the rules. I'm not doing that to say Trump is stupid. I actually think Trump is running circles around the Democrats. I'm also not saying Trump is the smartest guy in the world. I'm just essentially playing a kind of devil's advocate that even if the president had no idea what was going on anywhere and had no plan, too bad. He got elected, and I'm okay with that. I don't think the world is ending. Everyone needs to calm down. So please, Vindman is not a traitor. He's just kind of a jerk. That's the way I see it. But that's a great reason why it's time for Trump to say, we're going to reassign you. If you don't like being here, then you leave. Everyone should do this at every job. It blows my mind that people are at these jobs and they're like, I don't want to leave, but I hate it here. It's like, dude, go apply other places. Let me give you, before I read this, I got to make this point. I always talk to people and they're like, I hate my job. Okay, well, if you can't quit your job, stay, but start applying at other places, eventually get an offer, and then you can leave. I don't understand why anyone is arguing he should stay in a position he's unhappy in. CNN reporting. Actually, let me do this. Before I read this, I'll read you this tweet because CNN is saying it may be in the coming weeks. It may actually be today. So Robert Costa of the Washington Post says Lieutenant Colonel Vindman will be informed in the coming days, likely on Friday, by administration officials that he is being reassigned to a position at the Department of Defense. Okay, well, there you go. They're arguing that Trump's retaliating against his critics. That's so unfair, man. Look, I think to a certain degree, Trump is probably saying, like, I don't like that he did this. You can fire him. But imagine if you were a boss at a company and your employees were going around bad-mouthing you to a bunch of other people unjustly and you were acquitted of whatever they were accusing you of. You'd be like, look, man, we're going to reassign you to a different factory or a different unit or a different company or a different office because you're clearly not happy here. Morale is also a serious issue. It's also a serious issue that there could be people working in the White House who are really, really mad at Vindman and it won't be safe for him. I don't mean like anyone's going to physically harm him, but it's not good for his career to be surrounded by an administration that is frustrated and angry with him. It's better for everyone he leaves. Vindman said his departure from the council could come as soon as this month, the source said. That would be well ahead of the scheduled end of his time at the White House, which was originally slated to last until July. Vindman was appointed to his post in July 2018 and was asked to stay for 2 years. The source did not say whether Vindman's departure was voluntary or at the behest of the White House, though aides inside the West Wing had speculated it could come as soon as the impeachment trial was over. Trump has continued to fume about Vindman's presence at the National Security Council since he testified, according to people familiar with the matter. Vindman's duties were significantly curtailed after he testified, as were those of his brother, an attorney for the council, according to sources familiar with the situation. Here's what I find absolutely funny. They act like Trump shouldn't be concerned about his testimony. They act like it is unjust retaliation, that it would be illegal for Donald Trump to come out and say, we're going to get rid of this guy or fire him or do whatever. It's not. Vindman isn't a whistleblower. Vindman is not even a leaker. I see people on the right saying he's a leaker. He's not. He's a disgruntled employee. He's a public employee. He serves. He was upset and he started going around to other people who had the proper clearances to hear what he had to say. And he was complaining nonstop. He has no protection, as far as I know, because he's not a whistleblower. All he did was complain and then was asked to air his grievances in public, which shows he is not legally protected. Again, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, okay? But he's just a disgruntled guy who's complaining and is unhappy where he is because the president wouldn't take his advice. He said that he was supposed to be the one drafting the talking points and Trump didn't want to use them. Yeah, well, too bad, dude. Sorry, you can leave. But of course, they're making this out to be like Trump's evil revenge plot to those who defy him. They want to make it seem like anyone who dare oppose the president will be purged. Let me just stop you right there, okay? Let me tell you something. If you get a job at a company and you have a boss and you are disloyal to your boss in ways that hurt the company, firing you is not revenge, okay? It's just regular job functions. If you're complaining all day at work and you're mad that your cupcake recipe isn't being used, so you go and start complaining about private things that you were talking about with the boss, don't be surprised if he fires you. He's not getting revenge against you. He's just saying, you can't do this at the company because what you're doing is not conducive to a good working environment, especially when we're dealing with the National Security Council. He should absolutely 100% be removed. He's not happy. It's better for everyone. But here's Slate. You got to love Slate. Seeking revenge for impeachment testimony, Trump reportedly set to oust Vindman. I love this framing. They say, now that the impeachment trial is done, Trump is looking for revenge. Yeah, revenge. And Vindman reportedly could be on his way out as early as Friday. The senior aide was already scheduled to end his stint at the White House early, as the Purple Heart recipient informed the NSC he was planning on leaving his post at the end of the month. Vindman was appointed for 2 years, so we know this. We will read this quote, but let me go back to his testimony. Here's what I saw. I have dealt with people like Vindman, okay? And I respect him for his service. I always talk about how, even if I don't, agree with like Buttigieg, for instance, I get tremendous respect for his service. Absolutely. I respect what he's done in his mind, in his view, to help the country. However, I have seen people like him before. There is a sense of entitlement. They're smarter than you. They're better. They should be in charge. Why are you in charge? Vindman was the one who was supposed to be drafting the talking points on Ukraine, and Trump disregarded them. That was the crux of his testimony. But for some reason, everyone on the left started saying Trump was refusing to use his talking points. And so I'm looking at the arguments from the left and the right. Conservatives are saying, but he serves the pleasure of the president. Trump has no obligation to use any of his talking points. And Vindman even testified that he was an advisor to the president. Okay, it's been a while. Maybe I'm getting my ideas a little messy, but that was my general understanding of what he testified, that he was bragging that he was an advisor to the president when he wasn't. He was just a lowly subordinate who was their Ukraine guy who would tell them, hey, check this out. But poor Vindman, Donald Trump, for better or for worse, trusted Parnas and Giuliani or whoever more than him. So you can imagine how this guy got really angry. I used to work for a company once. I worked for a fast food place when I was a teenager, and I was one of the best employees. Maybe that was just in my mind, but I really felt like I was. Well, one day they hired a new manager, and the new manager was disrespectful, would disregard my thoughts and opinions, and I had been there longer than him. And I got angry, and I complained, and you know what I did? I quit. Did I go to a different manager and start saying he should be listening to me? Did I complain to corporate? No, I just quit. They begged me to come back. I said, listen, if some new guy is going to come in who has no idea what he's talking about and I'm not happy here, I'm going to leave. And that's exactly what we're looking at with Vindman. He's this dude who's been there and thinks he's the expert, and people need to listen to him when he's just a lowly subordinate. And Donald Trump is the president. Let's read this quote. Trump has complained about Vindman in private, mocking the way he spoke, wore his uniform, and conducted himself during the impeachment inquiry, the Washington Post reports. But Trump is eager to make a symbol of the Army officer soon after the Senate acquitted him of the impeachment charges approved by House Democrats. Vindman will be informed in the coming days, likely on Friday, by administration officials that he is being reassigned to a position at the Defense Department, taking a key figure from the investigation out of the White House. He was just a guy complaining. But for that matter, I'd like to bring up Marie Yovanovitch as well. They argued that it was part of a scheme. They undermined everything they were saying about Trump. They undermined themselves. They argue that Trump was in the secret plot to remove Marie Yovanovitch because she was in the way. That's literally what they argued in the impeachment process. Trump's been acquitted. I know it's over. Then they released audio, and everyone thought it was like 4D chess. Certainly this audio was bad for Trump, right? Except in it creates a real justification for why Trump fired Marie Yovanovitch. She was bad-mouthing him, or at least he thought she was. People on the left are arguing that it was a smear campaign to make her look bad. Oh, come on. We know these people are talking bad about Trump. Trump heard it. He probably heard it more than once, and he said, just get rid of her. And he didn't fire her until a year later. So at first, they try to argue it was part of his scheme because they're literally just making it up as they go along. I'd like to present to you some very wise words from a man who hasn't been alive for a very long time. First, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And I have one more. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Both of those from Sun Tzu, and the Democrats would be wise to heed those words. You'd think by now they would know who Donald Trump is, what he does, and why. They don't. They don't even know who their own party is and who their own witnesses are. Which brings me to the next quote. Victorious warriors win first, then go to war. When they claimed Trump fired Marie Yovanovitch because she was blocking his scheme to dig up dirt on Joe Biden, and then later release audio showing that Trump actually wanted to fire her because she was bad-mouthing him, you can see that they did not plan anything ahead. If they did, they would have won first. They would have said, here's our game plan all the way to the end, to the goal. Here's how we win. They had no win condition. I think it's really funny as somebody who plays strategy games. For those that aren't familiar with, say, a game like Magic the Gathering, it's a strategic card game. You build a deck of 60 cards, depending on the format, and it's a bit random, but it's a strategy game, kind of like chess. When you put together a deck with the goal of defeating an opponent, you look for your win conditions. What are your win conditions? And there are many in strategy games. In Magic, you can make your opponent run out of cards. You can reduce their life total to 0, or there are special win conditions. But before you begin, the plan you have must have a path to victory. They clearly don't. Well, now I see, with them trying to claim this is a big revenge scheme because Donald Trump is outraged that anyone would break loyalty to him. It's an extreme exaggeration of what's really happening. You smack talk your boss, you get fired. Dude's not even getting fired. He's getting reassigned. Calm down, everybody. Wouldn't you be happier if he had a chance to flourish in a department that didn't hate his guts? No, leave him in the White House where everyone's mad at him. These schemes and these exaggerations are random and chaotic. And it's very similar to when I've talked about, the far left woke ideology. Many on the left are simply a chaotic and destructive force. That's true of the mainstream Democrats, the establishment types. It's true of the woke insanity we see with that Barnes & Noble story I did the other day. You look at what the Democrats have done over the past several years. And let me go back to this story here. You see what they've done over the past several years. How many times has Nancy Pelosi stood up and said, here's what I'm fighting for the American people? Well, she certainly complained about Trump a whole lot. What did she do at the State of the Union? She shredded the copy of his speech. The Democrats, for the past 4 years, have been nothing but chaos and destruction. There's no cohesive message. There's no plan. It's simply hurt Trump. Be angry and destructive. Vindman had no right to have his opinion be put above anyone else's. So what does he do? He goes and complains. And I'll say this too. We know from his testimony, from questions asked by Devin Nunes, he did, in all likelihood, leak information to the whistleblower. I say leak in the colloquial context, not the legitimate legal context. Vindman isn't a leaker because he's allowed to talk to people in the National Security Council and other intelligence agencies. He's allowed to share this information. So it's not really leaking, but he's whinging. He goes and complains, and then this guy weaponizes that to try and hurt Trump and fails because it was ridiculous nonsense. This is all they've done. Did Vindman help the country in any way? No, quite the opposite. There's no evidence Trump did anything, as the Democrats have claimed, and they didn't even try to charge him with those crimes. Then they immediately say, But I thought the opinion was that Trump couldn't be indicted as president. That's what the impeachment is for, you idiots. That's why Donald Trump is the only president who was impeached without a statutory crime committed. You didn't accuse him of one. So the whole thing falls apart. They complain every step of the way. But where have they been to talk about creation, benefit, growth, making the country better? Well, Donald Trump, for better or for worse, has the economy at his back. He has a lot of good things behind him. In fact, Kyrsten Sinema stood up and clapped for him at State of the Union because he's pushing forward with bipartisan parental leave. He did get some Democrats, periodically to clap for him. He has his victories. Now, we look to Pelosi. What's her victories? Here's what I see. I see Donald Trump as a complete and total arrogant narcissist a-hole. I think many people do. I don't want to say most, but I think most people do. I mean, 65 million voted against him. However, most of those people, the ones who voted for him, don't care. You know why? Because his personal attitude and whether you like him has nothing to do with whether or not he's going to get the job done. The way I posted it, I posted it to you guys before, or posed it to you guys before is you have an opportunity to hire two different people. One guy is cussing and yelling and he's just mean as they come, but boy, does he get that job done. You need your walls painted. That dude is getting it done fast. His employees are working hard, but he is nasty. The other guy isn't getting anything done. He's complaining and actually taking the paint off the walls. It's already there. And you're like, I didn't pay you to do that. And he just complains all the time about the other guy. Yeah, who are you going to hire? And that's what's happening. So I'm talking about the Democrats, and I say this. Give me a reasonable, charismatic alternative to Donald Trump, and I will be right there. But if you refuse to acknowledge anything he's done being good, you're insane. The economy is great right now, and I talk to everybody and they say it, but you won't acknowledge it. Instead, you just try to burn it all to the ground. Then I watched Nancy Pelosi tear up those papers. And I got people saying, but Tim, why do you care about stupid partisan theatrics? I'll tell you why. Because one of my biggest complaints about Trump is literally his bad representation of American honor, integrity, because he's kind of a dick. But he makes the country work, right? You can't argue against that. You can argue about his attitude. Fine. Then you look at Pelosi and the Democrats, and what do you get? Chaos, destruction, complaints, whinging, with nothing behind them. So maybe it's hard for them to accomplish because they don't have those branches of the government. In the House, what do they do with their majority? Chaos and destruction. And I rest my case. If you want to argue that they're being obstructed and they can't get anything done, then why are they wasting all of this time with impeachment nonsense? Why don't they use their time in the press to complain about obstruction? They're not, because all they do is tear things down. So I have a choice right now between two a-holes and one who's actually making the country work better. You see the problem? There are a ton of Americans who are saying, I'd prefer not that guy. Many of them started looking at Andrew Yang. Well, Andrew Yang didn't cut it. Those people are going to go vote for Trump. Well, you reap what you sow. No, it's not revenge. Trump's just kind of a mean dude sometimes. He's funny, self-deprecating. He's good to you if you're good to him. But he does make fun of people a lot. And you know what? It shouldn't really, I guess, as much as it's a concern to me. And of course, I'll throw in foreign policy issues are huge for me. I think we waste so much money. And one of the problems I have with Democrats is that they want the same thing. They don't, Obama was doing all this stuff too. So I get it. I'd love to see a charismatic, honorable president who admits Trump is doing a good job in many areas and promises not to be, a foul mouth. I think that would work for a lot of people. But I'll tell you what's going on right now. Foul mouth is the least of anyone's concern. That's a fact. And it was a fact in 2016. And what's also a fact is that many people actually like his foul mouth because he's pushing back on political correctness and standing up for himself how he wants to. And people like seeing that. Bill Maher talked about it. Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly together talking about how people like seeing that. So as much as I can criticize him, I'll end with this. Vindman was a whiny, insubordinate employee. Okay, I know employee is a bit, I'm being a bit hyperbolic. He's serving the country. He's working on the National Security Council, but he serves the pleasure of the president. It's not revenge if the president says, I don't like this person, make them go away. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m., youtube.com/Timcast, different channel, and I will see you all there.